Do we know each other? Oh yeah, it was a good day. Nice to see you too.
All right. Cool. Well, welcome. So we've done welcome and introduction. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit of an overview of Urban County and the HUD funding that we receive, and then hopefully leave plenty of time for questions. Um, so Washtenaw County, Urban County's membership communities, our statement is that we're committed to creating housing and economic opportunities to provide a suitable living environment, principally for our low to moderate income residents. And there's three HUD programs that we're going to be looking at, from which we get an annual grant for at the Urban County, and they're all designed to support low income communities and households. So that's like the common thread. Jillian, sorry, I did not hit record. So are you recording on your end? Okay, just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure you didn't think I was recording. Okay, great. Um, so urban county is a bit of a cryptic term, especially because it includes non-urban units of government. We have a lot of, out county or more rural areas that are part of this entity called the urban county. So urban county is a HUD term. And when I say HUD, I mean U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I should not assume everyone knows what HUD is. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which I will refer to as HUD, it describes an urban county as local units of government that come together in a formal partnership to receive annual federal allocations. Specifically for us, those allocations are from Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG, HOME, which is Home Investment Partnerships Program, which we just call HOME, and then ESG, which is Emergency Solutions Grant, to carry out low-income housing as well as other eligible projects under those programs. So as an urban county, we receive a direct allocation every year. So that's instead of you all as individual units of government competing for federal CDBG funds that are administered by the state. So, in the past, I will say City of Ann Arbor at one point in time was its own entitlement entity or entitlement grantee. And then around, I believe it was 2008 or 9, City of Ann Arbor joined the urban county. So that really increased our size quite a bit and, increased our grant size as well. But they did forego, being able to go for other, being able to go for things through the state as well by doing that. So let's see. So we have 20 member communities right now in the urban county, and with representation sitting on the Urban County Executive Committee. City of Dexter and Sylvan Township were the most recent to join back in 2018. And as you heard from Mayor Pacheco, City of Chelsea made a commitment to join, and they will officially be joining July 1st of 2023, bringing us to 21 communities, which is very exciting. Our fiscal year for the HUD grants runs July 1 to June 30th. So that's why they won't be with us officially until July. And the Urban County Executive Committee is supported by staff in our office, obviously, but it's governed by the representatives of all the member communities. We can make recommendations, but ultimately you all get to vote and make the decisions. Non-member communities are invited to join the Urban County. We only have about 6 or so local units of government at this point in the whole county that aren't participating. And so we do for every we have these 3-year periods, which are these 3-year cooperative agreement periods with HUD. I wish they aligned up better with our planning periods, because we have these 5-year consolidated plans, like we're working on a new one now. But for whatever reason, HUD has 3-year periods that are for kind of reauthorizing as an urban county. So it doesn't always line up perfectly, but we outreach about a year in advance for each of those 3-year periods. And it is possible, as Chelsea has done, to join midway. Like you can join, they're joining for the third year of the current 3-year cycle. And then they'll just automatically, as well as other communities, automatically roll over into the next 3-year cycle. So you don't leave the urban county unless you do it very intentionally in writing to us, to OCED, and to HUD. So there's a process for like your community leaving the urban county. So urban county member local units of government, sometimes we call them LUGs, which is not a very pretty term, but local units of government, or UGLUGs, which is a unit of general local government. So if you ever hear those thrown around, here's just a map showing in yellow all the current members, and we have one prepared for City of Chelsea to be in yellow as well that we'll get up there for the summer. And it shows, it's just kind of interesting to see when different communities have joined. So that's over, the year by their name. You can see when they became part of the urban county. So, like I said, so it was quite small prior to 2009, and then it really started to sort of double in size. And when I say, members and active, that's kind of loose. So as Justin found from his first meeting, we only have, I would say, about half of the communities really participate in meetings, generally speaking. We'd love to see that be more. Especially now that we're virtual and we're not even asking people at this time, for the last 3 years to drive to the meetings, the monthly meetings. But some communities just, choose not to, like, they receive our emails, they get all the information, but they don't really come to network or, participate in the discussions for a variety of reasons. But I have been happy to see that we actually have been growing sort of participation, I would say, in the last few years, especially as meetings, I think, have become even more accessible for folks online. So community development block grant, as I said, I will call that CDBG. It's a mouthful. And these are the 3 grants: Home Investment Partnership Program, which we usually just refer to as HOME, and then Emergency Solutions Grant, which we call ESG. So this, just to give you a sense of the dollars, last year's allocation for the 2022 fiscal year, this is what it looked like: a little over $2 million for CDBG, which is on par. It had gone down just a tiny bit from 2021. Home dollars actually increased last year, slightly by a couple $100,000, I think. So we were at like 1.4 million. And then ESG is our really little bitty grant compared to the others, of 187,000, and that's usually around that amount. But that is we'll get more into that, but it's for homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing, and that type of work. And that funding gets coupled with a much larger grant, ESG, that comes through the state, through Michigan, through MISTA. And it also gets paired with continuum of care dollars. So this is just a small drop in the bucket of what the homelessness system is accessing that happens to come through the urban county. So at this point, the way we're going to look a little bit at how we allocate the CDBG funds each year. We are allowed to go up to a 20% cap for administration, to help fund staff in our office, helping to do all the monitoring and help partner with communities on projects, et cetera, to make it all run smoothly. So that we do use 20% for admin, for the staffing and compliance work that we do at OCD. And then there's a cap for public services, which is HUD's term for social services or human services. So it's 15%. And right now that money is going it's all earmarked for the new Human Services Partnership, which used to be kind of the replacement or the new version of coordinated funding. And, if you have questions about that later, we can chat more and I'll do my best. But that's kind of coordinated by the Human Services side of our department. And then 20% goes to about 20% goes to what's called the housing rehabilitation program, including their admin costs for running that program. So that's for, emergency repairs, roof replacement, hot water heaters, furnaces, sewer repairs, things like that, ramps, accessible ramps, for low and moderate income homeowners to be able to stay in their home and maintain those homes. And then about the remaining 45% or so goes toward community infrastructure projects, affordable housing, typically in the city of Ann Arbor, because they have a very large allocation that can be split up into a lot of different projects, and then demolition and some money toward community-based development organizations, which is a HUD term. And that's we have two of those agencies. They're both located in the city of Ann Arbor, and those are called Community Action Network, or CAN, and the other is Peace Neighborhood Center, which is over on Maple Road in Ann Arbor. So projects are initiated by the local units of government. We can give ideas if you want ideas, but these projects are primarily in low-income areas or benefiting low-income clientele. There are some exceptions to that and how you can use your CDBG dollars. For example, spot demolition. Demolition can happen anywhere if it's clearing blight. Doesn't have to be in a low-income neighborhood. And another exception to that would be accessibility improvements. So anything that's ADA related, like sidewalk ramps, can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in like an area that HUD has determined through census data is, majority low income or lower moderate income. So there are some exceptions to that. And then we do require project applications from the local units of government, and we review them to make sure the project is going to be eligible. And the application this year is due February 28th. So you should have seen some emails. And if you've been at meetings, we've been talking about that, and we'll remind everyone again at next week's meeting. So just a little more, CDBG is a really old program. It's been around since 1974. We use a formula to allocate the funds. And the formula is basically looking at population, poverty, and housing problems, which HUD defines in this data set called CHAZ that they put out. It has to do with more than one person per room in the house, things around, inadequate plumbing, things like that. So we look at those data points and run it through our formula, and it's the same formula that HUD actually uses to give us our overall grant each year. And so just to be really transparent, I've tried to increase our transparency around how we come up with these amounts over the last handful of years since I've been at OCD. So we do put that formula on our website along with everyone's estimated grants. And then once we have the actual grants, we will, update everyone on that. So, yeah. And you can stop me if you have questions along the way. Is everyone good right now, or does anyone have any questions about anything I've said? All right, hearing none, I will keep going. So how do we allocate the CDBG funds? Smaller communities you typically get much lower annual allocation, right? Because of their population and poverty, etc. So we have made it possible that you can bank your funds, so to speak, which means you can kind of build them up over a number of years toward a type of project that you have in mind. It may or may not be really well defined at that point, but if we think that it's going to be something eligible for using CDBG, then we will allow that. Specifically, okay, so this is incorrect. It says smaller communities bank too. Sorry, I forgot to update this, but we changed our policy so that smaller communities that get under $20,000 a year in CDBG can bank up to 5 years. And the larger communities that generally get over $20,000 a year, we have, they have the ability to bank for 2 years, with the idea of carrying out a project in the third year. So more details can be found. We have all of this laid out in the policy and procedures for CDBG allocations, and it's on our website. And it's also included in a document I created a few years ago called the CDBG pre-application guide that kind of just walks you through more about how can I use CDBG? What should I keep in mind when I decide, is it a good idea or not to even include some CDBG dollars in this project? Because there are pros and cons. So here's just a few examples of some local CDBG funded projects. Ypsilanti, a playground that we put in Riverside Park. There hadn't been a playground there for decades, so that was really exciting. Bryant Community Center in Ann Arbor, they did a really large rehab project several years ago where they did an addition connecting two buildings, two separate buildings, and then they renovated inside the two buildings as well. And then Packard in Pittsfield Township, they used some of their funds a few years ago to complete a mid-block crossing installation. And so complete with these rapid flashing beacons, so a lot of electrical work and big improvement on Packard Road. So moving on to the home grant program, Home Investment Partnership Program. So this is newer. It's just been around since 1999, and it is the largest federal block grant for state and local governments that is designed specifically for creating and preserving affordable housing for low-income households. So this home funds are allocated differently. They don't go through the formula to each of our local units of government in the urban county. We put these home funds into an annual request for proposal. So it's a competitive RFP process that we issue every December or January. It's actually, that RFP is still open right now, and it is closing in a few days on January 31st, but it's been open for the last couple months. So we'll see what proposals come in. We know that we will get proposals from Avalon Housing for sure. We actually have to receive applications and award something to Avalon because they are not that they're not a great partner, they are, but they are actually designated by HUD as something called a CHODO, a Community Housing Development Organization. You don't have to memorize this, don't worry. But basically, we have to give some portion of our home dollars each year to a CHODO in order to use any home dollars. So that's really key for anyone else who's applying, any other entities who apply for those funds. So I already mentioned the Affordable Housing RFP. And it does typically result in multiple awards. Last year, it was all awards to Avalon. Prior to that, in previous years, Habitat for Humanity applied and would get some funding as well for their acquisition, disposition, rehab program to rehab homes and sell them. We've had some cooperatives apply to do some major some capital improvements and things like that. So, we've had a variety of agencies apply and developers apply. So a few examples of where home funds have gone. This is a drone shot on the left of Hickory Way, some of the Hickory Way apartments, the phase 1 of that project that Avalon constructed over on Maple Road. On South Maple. And then this is an older project, but New Parker Homes in Ypsilanti, the Ypsilanti Housing Commission received a large amount of home funds combined. In both of these cases, they combine with other sources. So just to be clear, these are not solely funded with home dollars. They're coupled with other sources. But New Parker Homes was, as some of you know, it was completely, torn down and rebuilt. From the old development there. Moving to the third grant, Emergency Solutions Grant. So as I mentioned earlier, ESG is for homeless prevention, a shelter, and rapid rehousing services. And the way these funds are allocated is through our continuum of care. Washtenaw's continuum of care is actually staffed by our office as well. Our department staffs that, so it is connected. But the continuum of care, for anyone who doesn't know, is a group of individuals and providers that are responsible for coordinating the homelessness system for the whole county. Like I said, we're the lead staff, and we call it the COC. They administer a number of state and federal funds. So they get COC dollars from HUD. They get They also get from the state, as I mentioned, a MISHTA emergency solution grant dollars as well. So this is just a small piece of the pie, the HUD ESG that comes through the urban county. So we don't do any decision making at our level, like at this executive committee, on how those ESG dollars get spent. That goes through something called the funding review team at the COC. And at many years ago, I think that was delegated officially through the urban county to the COC. So I just said this. So I will keep moving. Let's see. Oh, just the only thing to add here is we will receive annual updates, if not more frequent, on what's going on in the homelessness system and the continuum of care. So actually this coming week at our Wednesday, our February meeting, this coming Wednesday, Morgan Boydston-Williams, who is my counterpart for human services at OCED, will be coming to talk about sort of what's been going on with the crisis around families in need of shelter. So hoteling families who are without shelter. So she's going to come and give some updates as well. And as some of you might know, we also have taken on, there was a big transition in the last year for the single point of entry for the homelessness system called HAWK, Housing Access of Washtenaw County. Used to be through Salvation Army and is now actually under our umbrella at OCED. So we like doubled our staff. So we're administering that piece as far as the initial intake calls to that single point of entry. So I'm sure you'll get some updates on that as well. Homelessness at a glance, it's just a snapshot. We do put this information on our website. If you go under the homelessness section of OCED's website, just to give you a sense, it was last updated at the beginning of the month. Yeah, so if you want to know how we're doing, there is an increase in people experiencing homelessness year over year, compared to this time last year. And there's been a decrease in people being housed compared to last year for a variety of reasons. And then average days to housing, however, has been faster, than last year, which is a good thing. So just a note, we've also received a lot of CARES Act funding that comes through the urban county. So you won't be hearing as much about this, but there was a lot of activity, and a lot of having to revise older action plans and, get approvals at the Urban County Executive Committee over the last handful of years. So we got 2 tranches of what's called CDBG CV, or COVID-related CDBG funds. And then we also got 2 rounds of ESG CV, so COVID-related emergency solutions grant dollars. So those all come with slightly different guidelines, have to be used in situations where you can document some impact from COVID, which pretty much everyone and everything has been impacted by COVID. But so there were special processes we had to go through to accept those funds and to be able to allocate those funds. And just as an FYI, the most recent program we've been able to fund with those dollars, specifically the CDBG COVID money, is this exciting new micro enterprise assistance program that Sharnessa Williams, who is my counterpart in our economic opportunity division, is overseeing. So we're doing a pilot there with $1 million to support local micro enterprises with technical assistance and $5,000 grants. So that just kicked off recently. So excited about that. And you can take a look at our year in review if you want of how those funds were spent. So just other links to other reports and such. We do a 5-year consolidated plan that is due to HUD, and we are just gearing up to have a draft for the next 5-year plan because June 30th, 2023 is actually the end of the current 5-year plan. So yeah, that's confusing, but fiscal year 2022 actually goes through June 30th of 2023. And then kind of the meat of these of our what are called our annual plans that fall under the umbrella of this 5-year plan are what are called the planned activity or summary of planned activities we do each year. So if you look at these, you'll just see a giant table of how much funding got allocated to each specific project and different communities, as well as how the home funds were awarded through the RFP, etc. So it's a good snapshot with a lot of detail. And then we do have a link here to the assessment of fair housing. During Obama's time, there was a new regulation called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing through HUD. And I think there is a lot of discussion going on right now about bringing that requirement back. But right now it's pretty loose again. There's not really any teeth to fair housing planning right now, but we are in the process of updating our fair housing plan that we put together in 2017. The goals from that plan actually will inform the goals. Those goals really transfer into our 5-year consolidated plan. And we attach specific kind of activities to those goals. So we're working on that as well, even though that is not required. We feel like it's important. So more on that soon. And then the 2015 Housing Affordability and Economic Equity Report. It's old at this point, but it is something that is kind of like a Bible document that OCD, refers back to, which is where a lot of our affordable housing goals were set, and just looking at the disparities also between the east side of the county and the west side of the county, as far as access and continuum of care. There's a link to that on our website as well. So I will stop sharing my screen so I can see people better. That was a lot of information. I hope I didn't go too fast. I appreciate those thumbs ups. Any questions about anything we just went through, things that are coming up?
So a question I have is, since I don't get to vote, I facilitate the meeting. So I should facilitate particular ideas to municipalities if we want the county to have some kind of role. Is that the way that works?
Yes, I'm comfortable, as I think we talked about a little bit, like different chairs have had different approaches. Some have been like completely neutral and have expressed no opinions on anything, and just want to keep the meeting going. And then others have, been able to contribute, content about like also what's going on at the county from the board's perspective, things that are maybe coming, action items that are coming that would be good for everyone to be aware of. And then of course, in the discussions to lend, to share your lens, as a county representative. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You just don't get to vote, but
that's okay. I have a lot of ideas and I like to share them from time to time. So I'll take the opportunity.
I'm excited to hear your ideas. So yes,
right.
Appreciate it. I will say, just one super logistical item is that to make quorum to have our monthly meetings, it's 7, which is not half, or even 51%. And we do, sometimes it's tight. So we do ask, I know everybody's really busy. So Jasmine, I know, will be sending out, and I used to do this when I was in the role she's in, rather than relying on you accepting a meeting invitation in Outlook, that doesn't always seem to line up with people's reality of whether they're going to show up for a meeting. So we do ask, and you'll get emails the week prior. And I know she's going to be sending out another email with the packet actually later this afternoon. But asking that you actually RSVP like via email and just say, yes, I plan to be there. Or if you have a designee, like have them say that they're going to be there, what have you. So
tell your friends it's a fun time. So let's make sure everybody gets there. I mean, we don't want everybody missing out on a good time. The last meeting was fun.
Yeah, he
took a while to get quorum,
gave it rave reviews. He was like, I don't understand why more people don't always show up for this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Will quorum still be 7 once Jane comes on?
Well, that's a good question. We might want to look at that again. Our bylaws are quite old at this point. I think they haven't been officially revised since 2012. So it was something that I was going to do. I actually have a bunch of revisions ready to go. I just never got them approved by the director. So since we don't have a director right now, I'm just going to bring them. No, I'm my own director right now. So yeah, no, we will. Thank you for reminding me about that, because that was on my kind of list to get those bylaws up to date, because there are some other references in there that are just not really accurate. So, and also like even including something as far as a process, if you, Justin, couldn't be there, like who would chair the meeting? In the past, like I've ended up kind of wearing multiple hats and facilitating. But I don't know if it's feasible to I don't think it's probably feasible to have another commissioner necessarily be your backup, but we should just like make that a formal process, whatever that should be. So we might want to look at changing quorum. It's just, I want to make sure we'll be able to, have our meetings and take action when needed, because there are certain things we have to do throughout the year to, meet all of HUD's requirements, as far as approving certain document plans and such. So I will make a note about that.
So Tara, I have a question about designees.
Yes.
I know, do you need to actually designate a designee, or how does that work? And in terms of voting, would that person be able to vote, or what are the rules?
Yep. So great question. So there is a designee form. We're not super strict about it. We try to get the form filled out by you all, or an email that's like affirming it by the highest elected official. In your case would be you. So if you want to appoint, you can appoint one or more designees. It can be another elected person, or it can be a staffer that you think would be appropriate. Like we have the community development manager from Dexter is the one who is designated by the mayor there. A designee can come in your place and vote for your community at the meeting. So if two of you show up from, Chelsea or from IPSI, only one of you, we just need to know who's voting that day for your community. It's certainly, the more the merrier. We just, to avoid confusion, we would need to know who's voting, because it's one vote per community at the meeting. And
Jane, it sounds like you're trying to get out of the meeting. Is that what I'm hearing? No? Okay. All right.
No, not necessarily, but we're trying to put together, and I've been talking to the township supervisors out here in Western Washtenaw about putting together sort of a multi-jurisdictional housing commission for Western Washtenaw. So one of the things that we have talked about is, does everyone need to go to the urban county meetings? If we're going to be meeting as a group, could there be a report back sort of thing? And the designee for the city of Chelsea for that commission, when it comes to be, I'll be involved, but it won't be me. So it seems likely that another council member would need to be on this list as well. So it'd be one of the two of us, or potentially both of us. But yeah, Justin, I wouldn't miss, my opportunity to see how you actually run a meeting. It sounds like a fun time.
I try to have a good time in every meeting.
No, Mike, I can vouch for that first of all. But yeah, my question was on similar lines. I don't know if you know, but Aisha Ghazi Edwin is Ann Arbor's alternate, and so I'm assuming just the procedure for that is like, if I happen to not be able to make a meeting, I should just let her know. She was sorry that she wasn't able to attend this orientation, so I feel like I could just pass along those materials, and I don't know if you'd like to reach out to her, Tara, or what's the best way for that, but I think, I think if, I think I could probably pass along some of the orientation stuff myself, and then just in the off chance that I can't make a Wednesday, then she'd come and vote in my stead. That sounds like correct, right?
Yes, yeah. That is correct. Okay. And and I'm happy to do a one-on-one orientation for her if she would like. I know I think we did reach out to her originally, but
you did. She was just unable to get the schedule together.
Yeah. So, in the past, I know, like Elizabeth Nelson came for the city prior, for the last couple of years, and the alternate never came. But I mean, she was just really, I guess she just made herself available. So, but that being said, that would be a great process for you to just communicate behind, or let me know and CC her or whatever, that she's going to be coming instead. And I'm happy to forward, because I actually realized I should have probably sent her these materials. So I can forward the materials that I sent all of you to her, and maybe just CC you, Chris.
Okay, thanks.
So that she's gotten the information. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll plan to make all these, but you never know with illness and stuff. And for quorum, it's probably good to have somebody.
Absolutely. Everybody counts. So, great. And it's also a good opportunity, which I hope people will take more advantage of, to share like resources amongst each other, right? Because like there aren't that many types of meetings, I feel like, where, all, 10 or however many local governments get to be together in one space for sharing what's going on or getting best practice, if something really working well in one place that could be applied elsewhere, that kind of thing.
I have another question. Should we be actively trying to recruit the remaining local governments that aren't part of Urban County?
Not necessarily. They get letters. Like, I mean, we reach out to them every couple of years. Like I said, it's Milan, it's Manchester Village, which was once part of Urban County and then left. Barton Hills
Yeah.
is actually a village, a village. Who am I missing? There's like a couple others. Linden, and there's
Salem or something. Unless they're in
What'd you say?
Salem Township, or no? Are they in? I don't know.
They are in. Wait, I should know this for sure. Hold on. Now I'm questioning myself. No, Salem is not. You're right. Nope, Salem is. See, this is how little interaction I get to have with Salem. But yes, they are. So the only ones that aren't here, I'll show you. I'm just going to share my map because I have it up. This is the easiest way to see it. So Linden, Sharon Township, Freedom Township, Lodi, Village of Manchester, Barton Hills, and City of Milan. And City of Milan's a split community, so it's only partly in our county, but we could, they could technically be part of the Urban County.
Why was the answer not necessarily in terms of recruitment?
Right. How's the answer not? How is
the answer? Why was that your answer? Why is that?
It could. I'm trying to think how to answer this best. It's not a bad idea. Because, the more communities that are part of the Urban County, the more funding that we get overall, right? Even if they themselves can only access, a very small piece, it can only help us as far as overall dollars, which ultimately, if they're not used by the individual community, they can go back into the rehab, the housing rehab program, for example, or some other program if we determine there's another need for those unused project dollars. So I don't see that necessarily as like my office's role to like do like heavy recruitment, beyond what we're already doing. Like when there's an opportunity, when the natural opportunity comes every for each 3-year period, to reach out and say, hey, these are the benefits, and and these are the couple of caveats, you miss out on state opportunities. Well,
I didn't mean to have you do it or have your team do more of that. I meant, like, should I try to get the commissioners that represent those municipalities to push a little harder to get them on board? I
mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have any problem with that. If that's something you want to take on, like, go for it. Yeah. And I didn't mean to imply that I thought you were like trying to create workroom. That's not what I was trying to say, but we kind of have this like very formal process that we've used, to date. But that doesn't mean there aren't other avenues for, commissioners to reach out and say, hey, why, what's the hesitation? Like there's really there's very little barrier to entering, right? Like, and there's not a whole lot. The expectations are also very minimal.
You don't have to come to meetings, right?
Some don't come to meetings, some, and some see themselves as donor communities, like Ann Arbor Township.
Mm-hmm.
They participate. They've been great about coming to meetings for years and years and years, but they never intend to do a project. Like they don't intend to use the money. They're pretty wealthy township. And also the way they're laid out, it's just really difficult, to have any concentration of, not that you want a concentration of poverty, but you know what I'm saying? So they don't they're just part of it to be like a good member of the county and to bring more dollars in. So I appreciate that, Justin. I'm in support of that, of you or other commissioner, you talking to other commissioners about talking to their areas.
All right. We'll talk more about it.
Okay. Let's do that. Because how cool would that be if we like the whole thing was yellow?
Then we can make it green.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So, and so I should mention there are these maps, right? So there are these low mod income maps that you'll want to look at for your communities. And I have links to them. And I think, I linked to them in the email that I sent out. And what you'll notice is, I just want to acknowledge that, oops, sorry. My screen okay, sorry, I covered my screen. The data that we have to use per HUD requirements is very old. So they use the American Community Survey data and they like repackage it. They repackage like 5 years of ACS data, and it takes them like 5 years to repackage it. Don't ask me why, but so when we get like new data to update the maps that show, where are your orange areas, which is like where it's 51% or more low mod income based on those block groups and the census tract, it is not really looking at today. So I find that frustrating, and I like to just acknowledge that, because you'll probably notice like, hey, this data is kind of old, and it's not our choice. Like if it were our choice, we would use like the newest possible data sets, which are much more current, but they do something with the border, the boundaries, and like make some adjustments to make it work for these purposes. And I could get you more detail on that if you wanted to know. We have someone in our office who works on those maps. So, and he can explain it a lot better than I can. So anyways.
How often are we going to talk about or make use of the housing affordability dashboard /map? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. So I'm now responsible really for updating that. And I'm just learning. So that was one of the many things that our director handled and actually helped create. So if any of you aren't aware, we have this affordable housing dashboard, right? That you can, I think you can link to it from our website. But when you say use it, like look at it, discuss it at Urban County, we certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be really relevant for some of the different pots of money.
Yeah, I agree. We haven't tended to look specifically at that with this group, but there's no reason we shouldn't. We're planning, the city's Housing and Human Services Advisory Board. We explicitly mentioned that, I think, in like the work plan. And so, I would be happy to bring that into our meetings along the way. Maybe not every meeting, but at certain points in time to kind of see like where things are changing.
Yeah, I don't think we need to look at it every meeting. I mean, it's not going to change month to month.
Right.
Yeah. I'll look for the link and post it in the chat in case anybody hasn't seen it. It's a good map.
Is that? Let's see. Okay, I don't think it was linked, and no, I didn't include that. And so there are application forms, and I do want to just re-emphasize, not to sort of beat it into the ground, but if you don't, because we'll be talking about it at the meeting as well on Wednesday, but if you don't submit an application each year, then you're foregoing the funds. Like you're not saving them towards anything, and they will go back into the pot for the housing rehab program, for example, that's countywide and funded with CDBG. So talking specifically about your CDBG funds, and right now we just have estimates available, and it's based on last year's total grant. We won't know. HUD doesn't tell us until it can range anywhere from announcing it in April to announcing it in June. It really varies as far as, even though the new fiscal year is supposed to start starts July 1, they're really inconsistent as far as when they announce our dollar amount. But when they do, then we redo the formula, and we'll update that on our website. It'll change from estimated allocations to actual allocations, and we would communicate out to you about that to make sure you know what you have available for your project. So I definitely encourage folks, to talk to me or Jasmine if you have like a project in mind and you're not sure what you want to put in your application. Jillian, just so you know, I think maybe you all have talked about little bit the board, but the SIO, because it's been difficult to find an eligible project like to do as a township, as a public infrastructure or facility improvement type of thing, through funds to actually community mental health has a property, adult foster care property that is located in SIO, and some funding had gone to them a couple years ago for like rehab of their siding, but they ended up, this is very specific, but they ended up, after I worked with them for a long time, they ended up getting other funds somehow to do it. So they didn't end up using that money. So I think you all approved to reallocate that money to Alpha House, which is, a shelter based in SIO. And so that, in addition to the 22 funds, so that was 21 funds and then 22 funds as well for Alpha House. But I will have to connect with you all again on that, because they got a state grant to help with the construction to expand their shelter, which is better than just giving a little bit of CDBG to a much more expensive project, because CDBG makes things. So I have to see, they might not be able to use the funds after all, in which case we probably need to come back to the township and decide what you all are comfortable with. So. So for each year, you kind of have to decide if you want to earmark the funds for like SIO's funds toward a project, or if there is an eligible project, or otherwise you just are foregoing it and saying, like in this case, it was sort of like a pass through a little. When I say donate, I guess I mean there's no project identified at all. And so it was kind of a special situation where it's like going to a nonprofit, or other entity in the township. So I think in that case, you all did give me an application that I helped kind of complete for that, just so we had a record of it. But if you didn't submit any application, it would be you're donating it back to the countywide CDBG single family rehab program. So which would benefit, we wouldn't guarantee a certain number of houses in SIO or homeowners in SIO would necessarily get it, but they can apply and be receiving those services along with the rest of the county, any low or moderate income homeowners who apply and are eligible. Right. It's kind of a default. It's just a default that happens based on our policy. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a good thing to clarify for sure. Yeah. And I'm trying to think, there are some exceptions as far as like what we would use those unused project funds for. I feel like we did something, I'm blanking on it, which is not good, but it's Friday, so I'll just be nice to myself. But we did something else with those funds, I think related to COVID a couple of years ago, rather than just automatically putting it toward the single family rehab program. But generally that's where those monies end up going. So, which, as I mentioned, are distributed, end up being dispersed throughout the county based on where people are applying from for that help. Any other questions right now? Comments. This has been, I really appreciate everybody's questions and suggestions as well. Okay, well, I'm going to let Jasmine take this opportunity to see if she can confirm SPPs all on this call, since I know she hasn't gotten many emails for Wednesday yet.
Yes. So I did get an email from Commissioner Hodge, and Chris, I did see confirm it. So I just wanted to confirm with you that was your confirmation for us. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't know the thing about the Outlook things being a little finicky. So thanks.
And then as far as Nicole and Jillian, do you guys plan to be on to perform, or do you have plan to have somebody instead come instead for you?
I'll be there.
Yep, I heard Nicole. Julian, I didn't get it to hear you. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I can check really quick, actually.
Do you mean you sent an email saying you were planning to come, or just that you accepted the Outlook meeting? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's
so
great.
I did receive the RSVP through the Outlook invitation. I did not receive an email.
But if we know,
the previous
but if you say you're coming now, you don't have to send an email. We'll just put you down for yes.
Email would be best, as I know with some individuals, they have accepted the RSVPs just so that it pops up on their calendar. But when I send out the reminder, if you send back and say, like, hey, I will be there, it's just a little bit more definite that for the RSVP for quorum, for me to make sure it's to tally up for quorum, to make sure we're all set before the meeting.
Yeah, because we try to, if we don't know, if we cannot confirm, or we don't feel definitive that we have at least 7 people, and I like to have a buffer because inevitably somebody has a last minute emergency, or a meeting runs over, or somebody forgets, something happens. So I have at least 8 or 9, if not 10 people who said they can come. Otherwise, like by Monday, end of Monday or so, we need to make a call. Ideally, we would know by Monday for sure if we were going to be able to have the meeting, or need to wait till the following month, which is difficult because sometimes we really have things we have to do, to keep to deadlines for HUD. So yeah, and I'm sorry to make people do more work. I know that people accept meetings, but I really find that a lot of people just use them as placeholders to as information, like, hey, that meeting's happening. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're definitely going to be there, because a lot of people that never come have accepted those meetings. So that's why we ask for an actual email that says, yep, planning to be there. Nope, can't make it.
So Jasmine, I know we're not, Chelsea's not counted yet, but we will not be able to make it Wednesday.
Okay.
We have a conflict meeting. Is there a place online that has the calendar of meetings for the year? Yes. Where is that?
I can send a link really quick. And I just wanted to confirm too, you did receive all of the calendar invites.
I did, but I have to admit it was very overwhelming. And then I got a series of calendar cancellations, and I was confused. And I'm
I was having an issue with Outlook, and I believe you and I were the ones that I was having the issue with. So I just wanted to confirm, because I do see you on my Outlook, on my side of Outlook, stating that it hasn't been confirmed yet. So I'll go back and look and make sure that it's something.
Okay.
And figure that out.
You'll let me know though where they are online, so I can share that out. And also, if you could send me the designee form, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe when you send the designee form, you can just send her the list of dates, the schedule that, because we have it on the county calendar, but you would have to look through, look through month by month to see it that way. So it might be easier to see the document where we confirmed the dates. Yep. Okay. I feel like there was something else I was going to ask or share, but it slipped my mind. So, well, with that, thank you all so much. Great to talk with all of you and see most of you. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to seeing many of you next week.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.